What's going on, folks? Ted from Nerd Immersion here, and welcome to the show where we analyze Ray Winninger's tweets, because that's apparently what I've come down to do at this point. So, and it's mostly because his tweets are some of the most informative news we get in any form of Dungeons & Dragons, which is weird. They hold these massive press events with interviews and stuff like that, and then he'll throw a tweet out afterward, and it's more informative than the entire event. So, I wanted to show you the newest set of tweets, which are from the 27th, and then go back and review some older tweets that we had earlier in the year. So if we take a look, here you can see he was thanking everybody for the Future of D&D panel, and here Gaior1 on Twitter says, is the 2023 classic setting the revisited setting you mentioned earlier, or was the revisited setting book dropped? This is the one we're going to revisit a campaign, and he says, it's different, 2 classic settings next year, and a third in 2021. So that's 3 classic campaign settings, none of which were covered by previous 5e products. So that means the classic campaign setting, that is not going to be Ravenloft, that's not going to be Eberron, and that's not going to be the Forgotten Realms. We're looking at revisiting, air quotes, a setting in 2024. So if you were hoping for this revisit to an existing setting, we're looking at 3 years from now, from what I'm reading from that. But let's go back and review the older tweet, which is what sparked a lot of this discussion. So back in June, he said, as I've mentioned on a couple of occasions, there are 2 more products that revive classic settings in production right now. The manuscript for the first, overseen by Chris Perkins, is nearly complete. Work on the second, led by Wes Schneider here, with an assist from Ari Levitch, is just ramping up in earnest. Both are targeting 2022 and formats you've never seen before. In addition to these 2 titles, we have 2 brand new D&D settings in early development, as well as a return to a setting we've already covered. No, these are not Magic the Gathering worlds. And then, as I mentioned in the dev blog, we develop more material than we publish, so it's possible 1 or more of these last 3 won't reach production, but as of now, they're looking great. So let's dive into that, okay? Back in June, he was giving us the announcement, 2 new settings, 2 classic settings, and a revisit setting. If we look at his newest one, we see that 2 classic campaign settings are set for next year, 2 brand new settings are set for next year, at least from what we heard from Chris Perkins, and then the 3rd classic campaign setting is set for 2023, and that revisited setting that we'd heard about here back in June is now coming in 2024. So, just break that down a little bit. We know that the expanded rule set is coming in January, with Morton Canaan's Presents Monsters of the Multiverse at some point being available as a standalone product. We are supposed to currently get 2 classic campaign settings reborn, if you will, into 5e. So we know that that's not going to be the Forgotten Realms. We know that that's not going to be Ravenloft. And it's not going to be Eberron. These are ones we have not seen before. Let's see. He says they were not covered by previous 5e products. So that leaves us with what everybody's left with, right? So we've got Dragonlance. I still feel that this is a very strong candidate because of the books and stuff that are coming out. That leaves things like Dark Sun, Planescape and Spelljammer. I still am leaning. The fans want Spelljammer so much, and like, I mean, we can only take the blue balls of this for so long, Wizards. We saw the art that Chris Perkins showed off from Hydra 74 with Boo from Baldur's Gate and Minkskin Boo, with the kind of looks like circles around him. I was originally thinking Beholder eyes, but there's not enough eyes there to be a beholder. So some of you have mentioned to me on social media that you think it might actually be crystal spheres, which would tie and lean in heavy to this concept of them leaning into the world of the multiverse, which crystal spheres would be dealing with Spelljammer. So that could be, it might be like Mink's multiverse manual or something, or Manual of the Multiverse, and it's just like him and Boo on the front cover of the standard one, and just Boo separate on the Hydra 74 limited edition cover. That's kind of what I'm thinking based on everything that we've seen, but again, this is all purely speculation at this point. So I would say that would be my candidate for the other classic setting coming next year. If we're going to get we know we're going to get another classic setting in 2023, that point, it's pretty much up in the air. I have no idea what it would be. It could be anything. Could be Greyhawk. It could be Planescape. I also have had this theory that they might try to blend Spelljammer and Planescape kind of into some like pseudo smushed together setting to kind of give everybody who wants both of those an option. And kind of, I don't know how they would do it, but I think there's enough there that you can kind of tweak them to make them all work together. And then as far as the two brand new settings, no one can speculate on what that is because we have absolutely we can, but for the most part, they're brand new. Now, according to Chris Perkins in that interview, this will be the first wholly new setting since Eberron was introduced in 2004. Most of the other settings that you hear a lot of people talk about, like Dark Sun, like Mystara, Ghostwalk, Planescape, Spelljammer, all these were back from 2nd edition. And you might say, well, what about Wildmount? Well, Wildmount is technically not a whole new setting. Matt and his team have been playing, and Critical Role team have been playing in Wildmount and Exandria for years. It's not a new setting created just for the purposes of making a new setting for us to consume and play in. That's what these are. Eberron was made in 2004 in 3rd edition, 3.5 era. That was the last, according to Chris Perkins, the last new setting until these two. Now, I thought the Nentir Vale for 4th edition, which I really know nothing about other than that it exists, was a new setting, but I guess according to Chris, maybe not. Or maybe he also just forgot about 4th edition. So these are two wholly new settings, which is, like I said, some of the most exciting things. These are obviously going to be very sink or swim, I feel like, because a lot of people would say you're making new stuff when you could be giving us the old stuff. But you can't know you don't like the new stuff till you see it. It could be the best one yet. It could be better than everything we've ever received ever in the history of D&D. We don't know because we've never seen it before. And like I said, to see the folks, and especially the powerhouse creative team on the writing side of Dungeons and Dragons, being allowed to fully flex their creative muscles and do things that is wholly new, right? There's only so much they can do when they're trying to bring Ravenloft back or Spelljammer or whatever they're trying to do. They have to try to breathe 5th edition life into these old products while still staying true enough to keep people who are fans of it from before wanting to play it, but also be approachable enough for new people to want to play it. These new settings, they have carte blanche to do what they want because we have zero expectations. At least I don't. I mean, you can have expectations about it, sure, but how do you know? You don't. It's all brand new. So I'm very excited to see where they go with this. And it sounds like we're going to get both of the new settings next year. I don't know what they're going to be. Maybe we have no concept. Now, they could be, some other new fantasy setting, right? Or there's the potential, and I think a very good, well-designed potential could do very well, to go wildly different, right? We could try to do like a D20 modern situation where it is like a current day or post-apocalyptic future real-world campaign setting for 5e. I know that probably doesn't work and it tiptoes around Shadowrun-ish, but it's a thought. Or we could try to do not Spelljammer, but like a space setting, right? Like how Pathfinder has Starfinder, which is their sci-fi version of Pathfinder, like their space techie sci-fi version. Maybe they're going to try something crazy like that, and I don't know what you'd call it, I don't know, starships and whatever. I don't know what you'd call it, but the D&D version of that, which would be a new campaign setting, still uses the base rules of 5e. Now, we've seen other people do this. For example, Mage Hand Press did something similar with Dark Matter, but it also did very well. So then Wizards of the Coast might have taken note of that and the fact that Starfinder was popular, maybe is popular, I don't know. Maybe they're going to try to cash in on their piece of that as well. Or it could just be, again, some entirely new campaign setting that I just can't wrap my head around because I just don't know what it would be. So I think that those are very interesting. I'm very excited to see what those are going to be. And then again, we have our two classic campaign settings. Now, Chris also said they were very excited about one of these settings that we hadn't seen before, and it's doing something they've never done before. And it didn't sound to me like he was talking about the medium in which the product is being produced, just more about the way the setting and stuff was being handled was something they'd never done before. And that's where I leaned into the concept of maybe it's a modern setting, maybe it's like a post-apocalyptic future Shadowrun style setting, or maybe it is a more space Starfinder-y setting. Those would be different areas they haven't really done. Yes, there's been like D20 Modern and things and stuff in the past, but they're not like officially Dungeons and Dragons. I don't know if that makes sense. That's what I'm trying to get across. And then there is one other tweet from Ray Winninger that is worth bringing up here, which is each of the products, meaning these two classic campaign settings and the two new campaign settings, each of these products is pursuing a different format you've never seen before, and neither is digital only. These are new print formats. So, because originally when we heard they were going to be produced in different formats, everybody's like, oh, it's going to be a digital only format. That's something they've never done before. So it is neither digital only, they are new print formats. Okay, that's a lot to unpack too. What could this mean? Could it be a softcover booklet, without a hardcover? That seems like a serious cop-out, and why would you bother bringing that up? Like, I feel like if you're going to tell me you're going to go to more like old school module style, staple bound, softcover, almost like magazine style booklets, I wouldn't use that as a selling point, right? If that was me. Your hardcover books are your bread and butter. People love them. They look great on a shelf. They're good to collect, right? Softcover magazines on a shelf, they don't look as good as a nice hardcover with that hard back with the Wizards of the Coast and all the logos and all that. I wouldn't brag about it. That's my point. I wouldn't go out of my way to say, hey, we're going to do a different format we've never done before. It's softcover. Ugh. No, that sounds stupid. Now, they've done box sets before, but never for new settings, only for like tie-ins like the Essentials kit, the Starter kit, Rick and Morty, and Stranger Things. But as I've been thinking this through, wouldn't a box set be the best way? They're doing slipcase box sets for books now, as we've seen with the classic set and the new coming up expanded rule set. I think it's box sets. Because riddle me this, or at least, I don't even know why I said that. Come along on this journey with me, folks. You have a brand new campaign setting that has never existed before. We've never had it in 5th edition. These are, or any edition, these are brand new, wholly new settings, right? We might have an entirely new world, a new plane, a new pantheon, set of rules and the way magic works and all this kind of stuff. Maybe even new kinds of magic, different weapons, different armor types. There's the potential for all of this, right? How would you get people into this? You have a book, right? Your campaign setting, but wouldn't it be cooler to put that book in a box set with a big fold-out huge world map that's maybe double-sided, or a series of smaller folded-up maps, a set of really cool dice themed to that in a dice bag? Maybe you have character cards. Maybe you even have 2 books in a box set. I don't know, a couple of minis even. I think if you're going to try to sell somebody on a brand new campaign setting that they've never seen before, the box set seems like the way to go, right? Rather than just you get a book and you have to figure it all out, if I can get a whole bunch of resources that make my life easier in a box set, I'm willing to spend a little more to get the box set because of everything that comes inside it. So that I think is the way you go about it, right? I mean, that seems like the quintessential way to sell somebody on a new campaign setting. Make a big flashy box set and let the collector gamer mind take over and be like, oh no, I have to have that. That's got all these cool other things. That's what I'm thinking those new campaign settings are. Now, realistically, I feel like you could also do box sets for the returning classic campaign settings as well. And as long as they're done right, and we don't have this weird sort of Van Richten's Wild Beyond the Witchlight nonsense where we're like, is it an adventure? I don't know. Is it a character player resource? I don't know. Is it a setting, campaign world, give us lore stuff? Well, maybe it'll come in a PDF. I don't know. If it's a true campaign setting, because remember, this is the only book we're going to get on it, especially the classic ones, the newer ones, rather. If it is for the classic ones as well, for people who've never picked up Dragonlance or don't know anything about Spelljammer, why not also make that a box set? Maybe you include a lore book if you kind of like following the route of what happened with Wild Beyond the Witchlight, where it's an adventure and there's a 36-page secondary document that gives you all of like the Feywild setting information. maybe you do that in a box set and you give us 2 books. You give us the book, the campaign setting, hardcover, and then maybe you do give us a soft cover. And I think a lot of you out there were saying in the comments on my video about Domains of Delight, you would like to have that in print form. And I feel like most people want it to be in like a hardcover, but it's 36 pages. But if it was in a printed, softback cover, and you included that in a Wild Beyond the Witchlight box set, maybe with the dice set or something like that, you'd have people jump in on that for sure. And I think if you were to do that with these classic campaign settings and the new settings, a box set, you get the campaign guide, maybe you get a couple soft cover, short material, maybe the adventure module. This is how you do it. This is how I would do it. The book is the campaign setting, okay? It's just lore and campaign stuff and character stuff, no adventure in it at all. If you're listening, Wizards, it's probably too late at this point, but listen. No campaign at all. If you want to keep going with this, what I'm calling a DLC model, and that's either pissed people off or they agree, you have the adventure, the starter adventure, the level 1 to 5 adventure, the level whatever it is, just to get people into the world. You include that as a PDF available on the DM's Guild. You can make it for charity as well, if you want. You can make it a standalone. You could give people a code in the book to get it at a discount or something like that. And then you have your campaign setting. That's a solid book, and you're good to go. And then if you want to pick up the adventure, that's the starter adventure, it's a couple bucks more. Or if you buy the box set, it comes with the adventure, the campaign setting, hardbound book. It comes with a printed softcover version of the adventure also included in there, along with the fold-out maps and the dice and whatever else. That would be a great business decision, right? You have people can say, well, I can buy the book, and if I decide I want the adventure, I can go out and pick it up afterwards if I want it. Which has kind of been the one argument that a lot of you have had with this concept of the book and the PDF, with the what we saw with Wild Beyond the Witchlight and the Domains of Delight. Some of you are like, I don't need to buy Wild Beyond the Witchlight anymore. I can get all the Feywild information I need out of this $8 PDF, and I can save myself $30. Or some of you were like, it should have absolutely been in the book. But some people are like, I only want the adventure and the character stuff. I don't care about the Feywild. I'm only going to play in it in this adventure. I don't need to know about the Feywild in the grander scheme, so I'll just buy the book. And then if you do that as the option, I think it works a little bit better if this is the hard campaign setting with whatever the character options are, and the short level 1 to 5 intro adventure, because in a typical fashion, when we get these campaign settings that we get, like for Theros and Ravnica and Wildmount and stuff like that, you get lore about the world and setting stuff. You get a couple of character options, usually 2 subclasses, maybe a couple of races and some magic items, and then they also tack in a very short 1 to level 4 adventure. It could be a good stepping stone, but it's never it's not designed to be a full campaign. So if you separate those out and then pad in more stuff for the actual campaign setting, more lore, more character stuff, and then have the adventure be separate, most people are going to want to buy the lore stuff because it has the player options and things like that, and then the DMs can buy the adventure. The other side of that, though, the counter argument is if I conclude them all together, if I don't put as much lore and stuff in there and make the adventure part of it, then this helps sell it to DMs as well as players, right? DMs may want the lore and the adventure, players may want the character stuff, but this allows you to both market, get both sides, rather than, okay, this is primarily more of a player guide. I don't know. I'm just speculating here. Obviously, that was the whole point of this video. But, I don't know. What do you think? Please let me know in the comments down below. Would you buy a box set for a campaign setting? What would make you want to buy a box set? Is it only for something like this? And what are your thoughts about taking the campaign setting and making it its own standalone solid book, and then pull out the measly little 4 to 5 level adventure and put that as either a printed thing you get in the box set or a PDF for a couple bucks after the fact? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and I'll see you all next time.